What is up, y'all? This is Mo, and today we're taking a look at the newest bind and fly from Beta, the 75 Air, or the Air 75. It's a 75mm bind and fly whoop that's pretty darn good. I'm going to spoil it right off the bat. It's pretty good, so you're going to want to stick around for this one, especially if you like whoops, and especially if you like 75 like me. Another special announcement later on involving that little guy right there. Stick around for that as well. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to get to some flight footage here. I have 4 separate flights to show y'all. An outdoor flight, an indoor flight, a low light flight to showcase the camera, and an endurance flight because I wanted to see how long I could keep this thing in the air for. And I'm telling you right now, it's a long time. I got about 4 minutes 15 to 4:30 on average with my flight style on a 1S 450 battery, which is a long time. And as a result, I shrunk these clips down to more manageable pieces. I don't want y'all watching 17 minutes of flight footage. Don't know if I could talk 17 minutes straight, but I wanted to showcase what the quad was capable of, you know, what it did well, what it didn't do well, and hopefully these flights kind of capture that. But yeah, I'm letting y'all know I'm a 75 pilot over 65. I prefer 75. I prefer the larger platform as I fly outside more often than I do indoors. And it just feels better to me that it just makes sense in my head. The momentum that a 75 carries, usually heavier, just makes sense to me. I will say that this Air 75 is the lightest 75 I've ever flown. You know, I don't focus too much on weight. My builds are usually around 23 to 24 grams, and this was 21 grams. That's nuts. As a result, you know, there's some good things about that. We get an increased flight time. The 23K motors end up being a good choice, like a very powerful choice for this build. And we have less inertia, less force in our crashes, less chance to break things. You know, we don't carry as much momentum, which is kind of what I like about 75. I like having a little beefier build to fling myself over things. But I think as a whole, or for the community, for the pilots, lightweight is definitely better. And we're going to come to a crash here, our first crash outdoors. I crashed this thing a bunch, and I mean a bunch of times over the 50 or so packs that I put in it over the week and a half that I had been actively flying this thing, and it survived, which was impressive to me. You know, I mainly wanted to see if the motors could handle the crashes and the AIO could handle the crashes. Like, I didn't want to see if there's any ESC issues that presented themselves, or, you know, maybe the motors or shaft bends or even brakes. None of that happened, which I am happy to report, and I crashed on asphalt and indoors in the basement a great deal, and it survived. The only thing that I broke was the canopy. That canopy is ultra light, ultra thin. It kind of snapped right at the point where it bends near the back mounting point there. They do give you a spare canopy, but I am not a huge fan of these canopies. This is probably my only real complaint with this quad, is it locks you in at an angle that I think is too high for everyone. You know, it is adjustable, but it doesn't get any lower than about 25 degrees, which for me, I fly about 10 usually, 10 to 15 max, so 25 flying indoors on a 75 is a bit challenging, and I think it will, you know, especially for bind and flies are very popular with new pilots as well, who may not feel comfortable building yet, and we want to give them an experience that is manageable. And you know, 75s can be flown indoors. it just gets a little bit harder when we crank up that cam angle. And that's an example of one of the many crashes I have. I'm going to have more. But, you know, I wish Beta just includes one more point on that canopy, because it is adjustable upwards, like 25, 30, 35. Give us like 2 more on the other end. Like give me 20 and 15. I would love 15. And I think that would make this quad even better for a new pilot, because we can lower that camera angle, we can slow down, and you know, maybe indoor flights are a little bit easier to handle, which is important. But man, overall, the tune on this thing, everything about it was great. It was super resilient, super durable for $99. Man, I'm trying not to spoil the review already, but this thing was crazy. It really was. Blind and flies keep getting better and better. And that's enough crashing. You get an idea. That was pretty much all my indoor flights. Alright, now we're looking at some low light footage with the CO3 camera here. And just for everyone's information, I am flying this on the HDZ goggles with the rapid fire module, because those things do make a difference as far as analog quality goes. The low light performance doesn't really change, but how crisp things look, how good things look, do depending on the combination that you're using. I don't think it gets any better than the HTZ goggles, and I don't think it gets any better than the rapid fire module, but I know there are other modules out there that people enjoy, such as Fusion. I'm just letting you know what I use. But you know, the low light performance isn't phenomenal on this camera by any means. It does a good job at switching from overexposure to the darkness, I guess. I'm not a camera guy, so I'll let you make your own assumptions or your own decisions based on this. But I liked it, and I think outdoors in any type of light, the image is fairly crisp, and this is a lightweight camera as well. All right, the last thing I want to show y'all is an endurance flight. You'll see in the bottom right here, we've been flying for 5 minutes and 50 seconds, and this is a showcase of the type of flying I was doing to achieve this time. Cruising around, I guess you could say, end up getting over 6 minutes of flight time, which is absolutely impressive. You know, if flight time is a selling point for you, then this certainly has a really long flight time. Again, a 1S 450 lava battery is what I'm using. What's our final time here? 6:16, I believe. 6:16 on a 75 millimeter. That's pretty darn good. Alright, so before we get started with the in-depth look at this quad on the bench, we're going to test the VTX, because this is a new board, and it is a 4-in-1 with an RX separately. So this VTX, I'm hoping, is going to be pretty powerful, pretty accurate, so we're going to go ahead and test that. I have it on R1. We're going to go ahead and plug a battery in. And we're going to test that with the Immersion RC power meter. So we should see, this is set to 100. I don't know if you all can see that. It's coming up as about 100. It's dropping a little bit because the quad's going to get hot. It is hot in here. Let me go ahead and change it. Now we're going to go to 200. All right, we went ahead and changed it to 200 on R1, and I saw 270. Now it's about 260 or so. Going to be dropping a bit here. Let's change it to 400 before it gets too hot. And all right, we changed it to 400. I'm seeing 500 on R1. That is pretty darn high. I'm going to unplug it. It's going to get hot and spicy. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, she's getting hot. But 500 on R1 is pretty darn impressive. I kind of expected that, because over the course of the week and a half I've been flying this thing, I only kept it on 200. I usually don't try to go max unless I absolutely need to, just to reduce the heat of the board. And it was hot over that week. And 200 was really solid. It was more solid than other 200s, maybe on 5-in-1s, such as the new Mob 6 AIO, I think is the Super X AIO, and even the 2G4. This 200 was really solid, and we're just on a little whip antenna. I usually run my good old trusty True RC Singularity antennas to get a little bit more gain out of there, and this was really solid. After seeing those results, yeah, not really too surprised, I guess, that it is a little bit more than indicated, and I think it is the right choice if you're going to have it 4-in-1 to include the VTX on board instead of the RX. All of the ELRS RXs are small little add-ons, and VTXs can get a little bigger depending on which we go with. So I like this combination, and that kind of confirmed it. That's really impressive and makes this board a pretty solid choice, especially, given the durability and hopefully we see longevity. I would be using this board a lot more often, maybe more often than I would a 5-in-1 if, we're going to reduce the heat overall by not having an RX receiver on board, as well as the VTX, as well as the ESCs. If we're going to save heat and this board's going to live longer or perform better, or VTX performs better, then I'm all in on this board. Yet to be seen. We're only going to know that as time progresses, if we hear any problems or we don't. But something to keep in mind, that it's looking really promising right now, and I'm very impressed by that. All right, so here we are at the desk. Going to have a slightly in-depth review of this build, as it's a good one, and I enjoy 75 millimeters. Want to go over a couple of things that make this, I think, so good. What I don't like about it, it's really only one thing, and it just some information in general on the build. So I guess we're going to start with the board. This is a new board by BetaFPV. It is a 4-in-1, 400 milliwatt VTX. 5 amp ESC, very light. It also has this weird non-USB connector. Beta's been doing this for a bunch of their connectors on the Pavo. You get this little adapter thingy. You plug it right in there, and then you can use USB-C, which is kind of cool. I mean, I kind of enjoy this more than a regular, the old USBs. I don't even know the name of it anymore. At least you can use the USB-C coming out of your computer. The board was the main thing that I was excited about, concerned about, because it's a new thing, and when things are new, we don't know how well they're going to perform, if there's going to be defects, how long they're going to last. And unfortunately, I can't tell you how long it is going to last. I can tell you that I put at least 50 batteries through this thing, beat it up a good deal, and it is still going, and it is still going strong. So it's a very good sign. Just keep that in mind. This is a new thing. It's new, so there could be problems lurking somewhere, but none that I saw. The motors Beta went with on this build are 0802 23,000 kV. They're Beta's own motors. Look like the EX motors, or that lightweight type of design. I was concerned that 23K would not be enough, but it is enough. And I think partly the reason why, the main reason why, is that this is only 21 grams. Most 75 builds, most builds of mine are 23 to 24, so I'm used to a higher KV, about 25, 27, up to 30K. I don't know if that's typical. I don't know if that's best for everyone. I enjoy a little bit of higher KV, but I can tell you that no matter who you are, if you're experienced or you're just starting out, this is more than enough motor for most people. If anything, it's a little too much for a really true beginner, but if you're flying it outside, you're not going to have a problem. Flying it inside is absolutely possible. It's a 75. It can fly inside and outside, although it gets a little bit tricky indoors, and partly because of the canopy. This is really the only thing I don't like about the quad, and it is the canopy. I did break one at this kind of bending point right here before the adjustments come into play. You see that right there? I did break it, landed directly on top of it. I did put a decent amount of abuse through this first one. They give you a spare one in the box. But the reason I really don't like it, not really for the durability, because look how lightweight it is. Like, you have to expect that we're doing a little bit of a trade-off there. But this camera angle, that's too high for me. What is that, like 25? I think, just for me personally, I like 10 to 15. But I think also, if you're a newer pilot, you don't want to be limited to such a high angle, because when we have a high angle like this, we only got one speed to go, and it's fast. We can obviously slow ourselves down, but in order to do that, we'll have to steer up. I think it's just harder for beginners to learn on a higher angle, and I don't like not having the option to lower it further, because it's a bind and fly. A lot of newer pilots will buy bind and flies, and then they'll have this amazing whoop that they just can't control because it's going 48 miles an hour. It's a minor gripe, but one that definitely exists. You can replace the canopy with the TPU style canopy and reduce the angle. I got one here. Any type of canopy like this, because there's no screw mounts on the CO3 camera. You have to press fit it into a canopy. I use a lot of TPU. This would work well, and it can help reduce your angle. But just something to note, that's really my only downside to this quad. Oh, and one more final thing to mention about the camera. A lot of early reviewers of the 65 had mentioned that there was some bleeding of light that got through the camera. You can actually see the PCB. They covered it themselves, Beta did, with the piece of black, looks like essentially a fabric tape or something. I had not seen any bleed. I can't see that PCB. So they did fix that out of factory, granted with just a little piece of tape. But otherwise, that camera is pretty good. We do have an external RX receiver here, and you'll notice there's no classic ceramic cube antenna. It's this kind of flat red antenna. It's got to be an antenna, right? I do notice reduced performance as compared to either the copper wire or even the little ceramic cube antenna. There is reduced performance on this. If you go back and watch my flights, you'll notice that my LQ kind of gets mad at me sometimes. I fly on very low power. I fly a Zorro, so I try to keep it as low as I can to keep that radio alive. But, you know, on 25 milliwatt ELRS, I was having warnings flash on my screen when I was circling the house, which isn't common. So that is another downside to this particular RX. It's not really the board, but it's this RX. For a whoop, I think you're going to be fine, especially if you run like a normal amount of power, like 250 or 500 milliwatts. You know, you should have more than enough range you would want. But that is something that's different. Beta usually has extremely strong RXs in the form of their enamel wires. These little boards with the enamel wires. That RX is insanely good. But, you know, we had to make a sacrifice here. The 5-in-1, yet to be seen, probably improved some, I would assume. So stick around. You can hold off if you're interested in the 5-in-1. I'm sure they're going to offer a build with that as well. But the 4-in-1 is probably going to be lighter, and that VTX is kick butt, man. It's kick butt. The props, I mean, the whole build. Oh, one other thing I want to mention too. So it comes with BT 2.0, a 90-degree connector standard, which is super duper nice. You can use any battery you want, stick batteries with little pigtails. This is an awesome connector. I've beaten it up. I've beaten this whole quad up, like outside crashing on asphalt downstairs, and it is held up. And these frames are very light. I would assume this frame to not be indestructible, but because it's such a lightweight, you're going to have a reasonable amount of durability, but I would always have a backup on hand if you're going to be bashing it around. You know, props get chewed up as well. These are a little beat. I replaced the original 4 because I lost one outside. Props are interchangeable. You can replace them, throw on different props, whatever. But I got to say, overall, all in all, this is the best. Don't get mad at me, all right? This is the best bind and fly 75 that we have at the moment, and it does a lot of great things. Does a lot of things right. Now, only time will tell if it continues to be the best. You know, there's always going to be something better coming out. As long as this board lasts, as long as the ESCs don't burn out, I'm happy with this 100%, especially for $99. It doesn't get much better than this for a bind and fly. Even if you wanted to just, take that board out of there and build your own, this is a pretty decent setup. But yeah, man, Beta 75 Air is a dang good bind and fly whoop. I don't think you're going to find anything better for $99. Interested to see the 5-in-1 option when it comes out, but this thing is a winner for sure. They keep getting better and better. And that's going to wrap it up here for the Beta 75 Air, the Air 75. What is it again? Pretty sure it's called the Air 75. It's a darn good 75mm bind and fly whoop for under $100. Man, you're going to be hard-pressed to find anything that competes with this. Even if you were to build your own, you're not going to get away with it for under $100. So I have to recommend this. This is one of the, unfortunately, got to say it, it's one of the best bind and flies available right now. And it is the best bind and fly 75 that I can think of. The only one I can really compare it to that's recent is the Mob 7. It's over a year old now, and it's a little bit outdated. Our parts are a little bit outdated. Our motors are a little too weak. It's a little too heavy. This fixes all of those problems, so I gotta give it to Beta with this release. Now, the only two issues I really had with this build is, one, the canopy. I'm not a huge fan of this canopy, really only due to the fact that this is the lowest the camera angle gets, which is probably about 25 or so, maybe a little bit more, I don't know. I usually fly at about 10 to 15, so it was a little bit jarring at first to get used to this camera angle. I think More importantly, you know, having a bind and fly is a common purchase for newer pilots, maybe less experienced pilots who are going to be stuck flying at a rather aggressive camera angle. Whoops, you know, can be flown indoors. The 75 can be flown indoors, but it just gets a little bit more difficult when we're going so darn fast because of the camera angle. I don't know if we can add some more holes in the adjustments to get us, you know, maybe 20, at least 15 would be best. Don't know if that's possible. Would love to see that. You can always replace that canopy with something else, but something, I guess, for beta, maybe to take note on for the future. The only other real issue that I had was this RX that it comes with. It's an external RX. It doesn't have any external antenna. That little red piece there is what I'm guessing is the antenna. There's no little ceramic antenna like we're used to, or the wire antenna. So our range kind of suffers as a result. I fly Zorro and I fly on very low output, like 25 milliwatt ELRS power. So I was getting RSSI DBM warnings in places that I usually don't get them. Like when I circle my house, that should do that no problem on ELRS. And I did have a bit of warning when I did that. Granted, I could up the power and probably get rid of that problem. And it is a whoop and you're not going too far. So this isn't a very big issue, but it is a difference that I noted, as Beta's internal RXs are usually rock solid, like insanely good. This is a little bit of a stark contrast. I'm assuming that that might be fixed once the 5-in-1 comes out, as it's going to be back to Beta's internal RXs, which again are good. But you know, this VTX was exceptionally strong, and I hope it would be the same strength on the 5-in-1. If it wasn't, I probably would go with this because I love this VTX, and the mixed with the camera, it was a pretty looking image. But all in all, y'all, this is about as good as it's gonna get for a 75 bind and fly, at least at the moment. For under $100, you're gonna be hard pressed to find anything that's gonna best this, and you're not gonna be able to build something this quality for under $100 either. So it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're in the market for a 75mm whoop, you want to bind and fly, it's your best choice. What else can you do? Alright, and for those of you who stuck around to the end, it's time for the special announcement. Very exciting. Oh, I can't get them on. I finally got some merch. Yep, that's the special announcement. I finally went ahead and made some shirts, mostly for the fun of it. I'm actually wearing one right now. Check it out. It is Niles the Corgi. In a little, it's a 3D Niles the Corgi with HD0 goggles. There's a little whoop on the back as well. Mainly did it for fun. I got a couple of different designs, including this one. We got the one-way whoop incident, and for those of you who know about that, we got a logo, a couple of stickers, just a couple of different things, just to support the channel. Please do not feel forced to do it. It's just for fun, and just wanted to throw it out there. But for those of you who do pick up a shirt from the store, the first 20 orders, I think I have more than 20, but I'm going to say 20 because I can guarantee 20, they're going to get a copy of this sticker sheet. This is the rare holographic MoFPV sticker sheet. We got the MoFPV logo. We got the Niles wet whoop. We got the one-way whoop incident with the Peregrine Falcon. Rest in peace. And we also got Niles the Corgi right there. These are the holographic versions. They're also available on the store online. The holographic ones are for those who support the channel. I have a bunch of regular stickers as well you can always hit me up for. I just did the holographic ones as a little specialty. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to share those with y'all. I had a lot of fun designing them. I love the way they turned out. I especially love the Falcon, the one-way whoop one. You know, that was an incident, a defining moment for me as a pilot, so it's nice to have it immortalized on a shirt. Anyway, just for fun. Those of y'all who stuck around to watch, I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Stay tuned. I got some more good videos coming down the pipeline. That's everything. It's been Mo. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.